Hello and welcome. I am Yasmin Taj, and in this video we are going to talk about something very important, that is childhood trauma. What it is, how does it affect us even as adults, and most importantly, how can we start healing from it? We can understand in this video step by step. Let's begin understanding it. Disclaimer: this video discusses topics related to trauma, abuse and mental health. Some content may be emotionally sensitive or triggering for certain viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The information shared is for educational and awareness purpose only. This video is not a substitute for professional mental health diagnosis, treatment or therapy. If you are struggling with the trauma or emotional distress, please reach out to a qualified therapist, counselor or a mental health helpline. You are not alone. Support is available. First, we need to understand what is psychological trauma here. We might have heard the word trauma earlier also, but we don't know actually the trauma, what actually it means. Here I am focusing majorly on mental, that is psychological trauma. Trauma is our mind and body's emotional response to a painful, scary or highly stressful event, which actually we don't want to experience, but unfortunately we have to, or we are getting exposed to that kind of experiences which we cannot control, which we are feeling overwhelming of it, and it can make someone helpless, unsafe or deeply hurt even long after the event is over. If I have to tell you in short, trauma is not just about what has happened, it's about how it made us feel inside. That experiences, I can say a kind of bad experiences. Obviously from a good experiences we don't get traumas, right? From a bad experiences, what actually making me feel some unsafe or hurt is what we call it as a trauma. Okay. Next, there are different types of traumas here, which each one of us may experience differently. So the trauma, all these three types are segregated into three different types. One is acute trauma, that comes from one single or intense event. Okay. Which is very deep experience which we cannot forget ever in our life. That is what we call it as a intense event. For example, a car accident, a sudden death in the family, especially if we are very much attached to someone, and the death of that person could create that acute trauma within us, or witnessing a kind of violence. Okay. Even see, you are walking in a road and you see a accident, someone has lost filled with a blood and he has lost something like leg, a hand or something like that. That kind of events which we see, observe, and that may create a kind of fear within us, right? We feel we cannot forget it forever. That is a kind of emotionally we are hurt. Yeah, that is an intense event. And the next one is that chronic trauma, which comes from a repeated or ongoing bad experience over a time. For example, long term abuse, bullying, or negligence. Okay, neglect, that is negligence. A child can experience a negligence by the parents, by the family members, by the teachers, by the friends, classmates in the college, schools. That kind of negligence, bullying by the people around, or someone is abusing that child particularly for a long time. That is what we call it as a chronic trauma. And the other one is that complex trauma. This is when someone faces multiple traumatic events often starting in the childhood itself. For example, growing up in a violent or unstable home environment, or we can say abusive environment, where the child is not feeling safe to stay, to not feeling happy there. Okay, that is what we call it as a complex trauma. Out of this, all these three types, each type of this trauma may affect the people differently, but all of them are real and valid actually. So that is about the types. Next, we need to understand about the childhood trauma here. When a child goes through a scary, painful, or overwhelming experiences, it can deeply affect their growing mind and body. That is what we call it as a childhood trauma. Some of the examples for those who are not actually understanding what the meaning is, here we can see physical abuse, like hitting or beating a child is a kind of it can create a trauma. Emotional abuse such as constant yelling or insulting the child, we should always encourage the child. We should not, and moreover, I have seen many parents comparing the child with the other child. That is not actually the right way, especially when we are dealing with the children who are below the age of 20, 21. uh, that is like the comparison can create a kind of stress among the child. Next, sexual abuse. uh, most of the uh, children might face this kind of abuses by the people around itself actually. We every day in the newspaper or news channels, we see one or the other cases where a child is being abused by the people who is very nearer uh, to the family, or who is staying in the neighborhood or in the school, colleges, somewhere where the child is going. So that is a kind of sexual abuse. And losing a parent or a caregiver, who a child might be emotionally attached to someone, and when it loses that person, parent or a caregiver, that is again a cause for that trauma. And negligence or neglect, not being properly cared for. Next, seeing violence at home. uh, Most of the children's experiences that parents are always fighting, or father is fighting with the uncles, or any kind of such kind of situations where violence and even a kind of mental stress can arise in the mind of a child. How a mother speaks at home, it's mostly important for each mother who are watching this video. Don't raise your voice to threaten your child at home. Okay, don't think that just by raising your voice your child will learn everything what actually you want to teach it. No, that is not the reality. Reality is that your voice is creating a mental stress in the mind of that child. Okay, have a control on your voice. Your voice must be something to explain. Your voice must not be a noise in the mind of the child. Next is growing up in the poverty or war kind of situations, which we might have seen in the news, is that many wars are happening across the world. Just imagine the situations of the normal people and the children in those countries. What kind of traumas they may experiencing. Recently I was seeing in the news that Parle-G biscuit at Ukraine has become 250 rupees per packet, which is almost like within 10 or 20 rupees in India, which is 250 rupees in Ukraine because of war. We are seeing this economically, we are seeing these wars politically, but are we forgetting to see this kind of war in a humanistic approach? Are we not are we forgetting to see what will be the psychological situation of the people who are facing this war, and especially the children located in those areas? What may be their experiences? Okay, so next, being bullied at school can be a challenging for the child, how it is taking, how it is facing. Having parents with addiction or mental illness problems is the major uh, causes for the childhood trauma nowadays. We have seen that many children are facing a parent being addicted. That may be to a smoking habit, that may be to a alcohol, or to something else. As a child, it cannot express what actually it facing. Okay, a child cannot come and tell you don't smoke in front of me papa karke, but whether you are smoking, actually when we grow up we can tell our father that don't smoke in front of me. Okay, but as a child we don't do that. But unfortunately, in the mindset, in the mind, that smoking habit of a father or alcohol habit of a father is causing the child, but the child is unable to express it. Okay, next, mental health problems or illnesses, which is like even the parent may not be knowing that they itself having that kind of mental health problem. Nobody will accept that they have a mental illness, but it's most important that when you know, when you have a mental health problem, make sure that you keep your child away from it. Okay, accept it. If you have something like that, you should take care of yourself and keep the child away from it, because it's important that your child should not have the similar kind of addiction or mental illness in the future. Here, even if a child is not physically hurt, just feeling constantly unloved, unsafe, or ignored can be deeply traumatic also. These early wounds often stay with us even as we grow up. Next, here, ACEs, we call it adverse childhood experiences. I have taken this image from healthtreatmentcenters.com, which you can go to that website. Even you can go through the information on the traumas of during childhood and how to overcome it. ECEs are like adverse, what we call it, adverse childhood experience. These are serious experiences in childhood that can deeply impact a child's health and well-being even in the adulthood. Some examples here include physical or emotional abuse, physical neglect or emotional neglect, household member who suffered from mental health issues, household member addicted to illegal drugs or alcohols, and sexual abuse, household member who was incarcerated, or loss of a parent or a loved person due to death, divorce, or abandonment. Next, witnessing domestic violence against the mother, or even seeing the mother or father is not happy in a married life. Or most importantly, one more thing I want to add up here: seeing a parent is not happy in a married life, or any of the parent or both of the parent is into a divorce or into a extramarital affairs, that kind of things can also causes trauma in the mind of a child. Child loses the respect on the parent when they behave opposite to the expectations of a child. Next, adverse childhood experiences have been linked to risky health behavior, chronic health conditions, low life potentials like dropping out of school or struggling in jobs, and even early death also. That's why understanding and healing from childhood trauma is so important here. Next, global facts and figures on trauma. I have included both childhood trauma also here. First, general trauma for all ages. Around 70, according to this World Health Organization, around 70% of people experience it at least one traumatic event in their life. Yes, that is true. Normally, we all have experiences or experienced at least one traumatic event in our life. Uh, and we don't forget that. Like I have already said, the different three types of traumas there. If you understand those three types of trauma and link it with your real life experiences, you will find that might be even you have experienced at least one traumatic event in your lifetime. Okay, then 1 in 3 women worldwide faces physical or sexual violence. That is a major source of trauma. Later, that person may not be interested in any kind of sexual activities in future, or like scared of this. All those kind of situations may arise. Next, trauma is even more common in areas affected by natural disasters, war, conflict, or poverty, especially in low income countries. So these are general trauma. Next, coming into the childhood trauma, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. A major study in the US by the CDC found, that is CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 61% of adults had at least one adverse childhood experiences. 1 in 6 adults had 4 or more ACEs, which is linked to serious health issues later in the life. Children with 4 or more ACEs are like 2 times more likely to develop heart disease, 3 times more likely to suffer from depression, or 12 times more likely to attempt the suicide. These numbers remind us trauma is not rare and healing from it is essential for a healthier world. Next, facts and figures on trauma in India. Have segregated it into 3 forms. One is child abuse and neglect. According to a report by the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2007, 53% of children reported facing some form of sexual abuse. 69% reported physical abuse, like being beaten or hit by somebody. Sadly, most of these cases go unreported due to fear, shame, or cultural silence. Next, mental health impact. According to the Lancet Psychiatry 2020, around 197 million people in India are living with mental disorders. 1 in 7 Indians suffer from a mental health issues, many of which are connected to childhood trauma or adverse experiences only. Next is disaster and violence. More than 100 million people in India are affected by natural disasters like floods and cyclones, leading to long-term psychological trauma. As per NFHS 5 2021, 30% of married women aged 15 to 49 reported facing domestic violence, whereas most of them, they don't actually come up, they don't dare. The most of the time what happens is, the men, when they are getting married, they look for a woman who is weak. They don't want to marry a strong woman, because they already know that when they abuse that woman, a strong woman will not tolerate it, but a weak woman always be dependent on her, and she will tolerate it, everything. And that is why most of the domestic violence cases doesn't come out. These numbers show that trauma is not rare, and there is a strong need for awareness, support and healing. Here, Coalition of National Trauma Research says that trauma is top one cause of death among aged 1 to 46. Next, how trauma affects the brain and emotions. Actually, the trauma doesn't just affect our feelings, it actually changes how the brain works. Here how it works. The brain's alarm system, the amygdala, becomes overactive. Trauma makes it overactive actually. This means that the person feels constantly alert or in a danger even when they are actually safe. The next one is memory center. Hippocampus may not store traumatic memories properly. That's why people may have flashbacks or feel strong emotions when reminded of that particular trauma. That is what we call it as emotional triggers. Next is thinking brain. Prefrontal cortex becomes less active under stress. So it gets harder to focus, think clearly, make decisions or control our emotions. In short, trauma can rewire the brain to constantly expect danger or sadness, making everyday life feel overwhelming to us. Next, signs of a childhood trauma. Even after childhood trauma is over, its effects can show up years later, often in a ways we don't even expect. A person might feel anxious or scared all the times, overreact to small problems or stress, feel sad, empty or hopeless often, avoid people or have trouble trusting the people, feel emotionally numb or shut down, struggle with anger or shame or guilt, have nightmares or trouble sleeping, turn to harmful coping methods like addiction, overeating, or isolation. Sometimes they may not even know why they feel this way, because the trauma happened long ago and never it was healed. These signs are not weakness actually, they are silent signals that the mind is still trying to protect itself. Next, long-term effects of trauma. I have given some data here. Adults with unsolved childhood trauma are 3 to 5 times more likely to suffer from anxiety, depression, or PTSD, at higher risk of chronic illness like diabetes, cancer, and obesity. Children exposed to trauma may have lower IQ scores, poorer academic performance, higher dropout rates. These effects shows us that the trauma is not just a moment, it can shape a person's entire future in left unhealed. But the good news is, with the right support, healing is always possible. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD statistics. According to WHO 2022, around 3.6% of the global population suffers from PTSD. Understanding this PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, a serious condition that can develop after a person goes through a trauma. 3.6% of the global population is suffering from PTSD. Among people who experiences trauma, about 20 to 25% may develop PTSD. That means 1 in 4 trauma survivors can continue to face strong emotional and physical symptoms. In India, PTSD is often underdiagnosed due to lack of awareness and mental health access. People don't want to show, people don't want to share that they are going through some traumatic stress. They don't want to come up, they don't want to take any help. They are not actually aware that this kind of things are happening and this can be this. When we don't understand about ourselves mentally, the whole life we remain ill. So it's important that we must have awareness about mental health conditions, and how to cope up and how to come out of it. And most importantly, it's important to take help from a psychologist, a qualified person who can give a right suggestion, who can show a right path to come out of this kind of trauma. Next, symptoms of unresolved childhood trauma. Unhealed childhood trauma can show up in both our emotions and behavior even years later. Let's look at some common emotional symptoms here. Feeling sad, anxious, or empty often. Next, sudden anger or mood swings. Having mood swings due to hormonal changes, that is different from these mood swings. Okay. Next, low self-esteem or not. Low self-esteem here means not having a sufficient confidence on oneself, or not knowing self-worth, or not having a feeling that I am not good enough for anything. Okay. Fear of being abandoned or rejected, guilt or shame without clear reason. All these are emotional symptoms, whereas behavioral symptoms includes overreacting to small triggers or stress. Somebody has said something to me and I will overreact to it. Overthinking about something and not knowing what to think and or when to react, what to say, when to say. All this can be the behavioral symptoms. Avoiding people or situations, places, trouble focusing or making everyday decisions, turning to addictive or risky habits, being a perfectionist or always trying to please others, struggling to say no or setting healthy boundaries. So it's always important to focus on the happiness and peace of mind in our life. When we forget what are the emotional or behavioral symptoms we are facing, we can never come out of all this. So it's important that we understand ourselves, set some boundaries, stop pleasing people. No need to get into any kind of addiction to solve this. Just this, we need to understand what actually I am facing, and how we have many other options also to come out of this. Usually if I take personally, if I find something like I am facing this kind of situation. For example, recently I have written one examination. After writing that examination, around for 1 week I had kind of anxiety, a kind of performance anxiety, I can say. That anxiety, I understood that I am going through this and I am unable to focus on anything else. I am just thinking only about the results, the performance of that examination, the result, what can be the result, how I have performed, that kind of mental stress in my mind. And I was unable to uh, speak with anybody, and I was unable to socialize with the people. I don't wanted to speak with the people I love, I affectionate about, all this kind of situation. Then I realized that, oh, all this is happening to me. Now I have to come out of this. How I can come? I don't need to be addictive to anything. Okay, I don't need to be perfect for. I am also facing any kind of problems that I need to understand. We all are human beings and we all faces one or the other kind of mental problems. Okay, or else we could have been machines, right? So it's important for us to understand, come out of that. How can we come out? We will discuss in later slides. We also need to understand some physical and mental symptoms here, coping signs. Physical and mental could be like headaches, stomach issues, or body pain, often without any medical causes. Even we start gaining weights or losing weight without any proper diet or anything. Okay, trouble sleeping or nightmares, always feeling tired, tense, on edge, panic attacks, or sudden flashbacks, difficulty concentrating or staying focused on something can be a physical and mental problem. Now let's talk about coping signs here, the ways some people try to deal with unhealed pain, that is like addictions to alcohol, food, phone, even overworking. To keep oneself busy, the person may be addicted to overworking, and emotional numbness, like feeling nothing at all. Okay, no feeling towards anyone, no feeling towards the people who are loving us, no feeling towards the people whom we love, nothing, no feeling at all. Next, perfectionism or workaholism, to avoid all these emotions. Next, self-harm or taking unsafe risky behavior. uh, I could say that workaholism can work, but other things may not be good to avoid traumas or to come up with this. Okay, actually these are not the signs of weakness, they are sign of struggle and a need for a support and healing. Next, how to heal from trauma. Healing from trauma is actually the possible thing, but it takes time and support. This is most important slide which you have to concentrate and listen properly. First is that acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is to accept that something painful happened and we don't have to deny or hide it anymore, right? Next, talk. Share your feelings with someone you trust, a friend, a family member, or a therapist. Speaking out lightens the burden. Next, therapy. seek professional help like CBT, that is cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, or trauma focused counseling. These approaches are proven to help. Next, self care. Do things that suit your mind and body, that is like journaling, art, meditation, walking, or any activity that brings calmness within you. Healthy relationships. Surround yourself with kind, supportive, and safe people. Healing happens faster in a nurturing environment. Next, routine and safety. Try to create a peaceful, structured daily life. Feeling safe and stable is a key. Next, inner child work. Be gentle with your past self. Through affirmation or therapy, talk kindly to the child within who needed love and care. Remember, healing does not mean forgetting, it means learning to feel safe again. Sometimes the child inside us is still waiting to be heard, to be seen, to be healed, and that's okay. Many people carry the invisible weight of childhood trauma, but healing is possible. You deserve the peace. Your past may shape you, but it doesn't define you. Be patient with yourself. Healing takes time. All this script is for educational purpose and I have used it from few references and sources. Here, global sources, Indian sources, World Health Organization, CDC, Ministry of Women and Child Development India, the Lancet Psychiatry, NFHS, etc. If you found this video helpful, please like, share and subscribe to Taj Edu Edge for more wellness tips and educational content. Also share this video with your friends, colleagues so that they can also understand about the childhood trauma. This is helpful. This video will definitely be helpful for all those who are facing childhood trauma, or also as a parenting tip for the new generation, how we should be and how we should not be as a parent when we are upbringing our child. We are being responsible towards our child. It's important to make sure that our child should not face any kind of mental traumas, and also important to understand the silence of a child. I hope this video has empowering content. Comment below with your experiences or questions, and also, as I have already mentioned, this video is just for educational purpose. If you are facing any emotional traumas, please reach out for the help. Reach out to a doctor who can help you come out of it, a counselor who can listen to you carefully. Take a help at a right time. Don't share your personal information with the people around you without knowing what actually they are. Okay? Trust the doctors, counselors, and trust yourself. Know yourself. Try to come out of all the situations which you may be facing or which the people around you may be facing. Help them come out and understand that each of us are human beings and we all have faced one or the other thing in our life. We are not the machines to stay calm. We all have emotions, hence why we feel or experience such kind of traumas. I hope you understand it. share this video with all your friends and colleagues. Thank you very much.